Well, political changes haven't stopped corporate America from investing in offshore wind farms or other forms of green energy. A new report indicates that almost 40% of U.S. wind energy contracts were signed by corporate, university, and military users in 2016. Now, that's a 5% increase from 2013. And it's tech companies that seem to be leading the trend, especially Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Experts say key factors include a decline in cost. Now, rather than pay per use, they buy energy on contract. A megawatt of wind farm energy costs as little as $15 and solar as little as $35. Well, for more on the future of offshore wind energy in the United States and around the world, I'm joined by Kari Fulton. Kari is an environmental advocate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, Kari, a lot of people might be surprised to find out that this is the first U.S. offshore wind farm. So why is the U.S. so far behind the rest of the world when it comes to this?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's taken us a little bit of time to really invest, and we have a different type of policy, whereas some countries like China, where once the government says, hey, this is what we want to do, everything is pushed in that direction, whereas in the United States, it's state-based, it's federal-based, so getting that funding can sometimes be a little bit more difficult. But I think right now we're in a good place where people, corporations, states are seeing this is the way to go. So when we have projects like this, this can be used as an anchor that helps to push out even more projects, because there are more projects on the pipeline, especially for offshore wind.
Now, we know that President Trump's direction seems to obviously be tilted more towards coal as opposed to renewable energy. So how important does this rank for his administration in terms of solar and wind?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that time will tell. The proof is in the pudding. So if we see progress happen, I think that we will see more of an investment happen. And I also think that some of Trump's dedication to coal has a lot to do with the base that he supports that is very pro-coal, and that looks at it and says, hey, this is a worker opportunity. We are trained in coal. But the more that we get people who are trained in offshore wind, who are trained in solar, the more that we can say this is a real job winner right here. And the generation after Trump, even Trump's children, they see the real opportunity in renewable energy. So the more that we push that, I think it's even better.
And certainly we're seeing a lot of private companies and states seeing the opportunity there. Do you think they'll do enough to fill that gap when it comes to investment in wind energy?
I hope so. That's a big thing. And I think that there are companies, whether it's Tesla, whether it's different corporations that see this and that should be moving toward this. So if we can get not only corporations that are looking into it, but other countries that are saying, hey, actually, we're going to partner with the states and we're going to build on those partnerships, I think we can see a strong investment happen.
And in terms of leadership in this, who are the world leaders on this front and why? Why have they made that their priority?
On wind in general, I think, you have China, you have Europe that are already light years ahead of us when it comes to solar and wind energy. And I think a part of that is because they see the importance of it, especially when you have so many environmental impacts from years and years of using coal and how that's impacted the air quality in somewhere like Beijing or somewhere in China. And so they've moved in a direction that is really future. That's future focused. So hopefully the United States can move in that same direction. When I think about the United States and I think about Europe, and they're always about 5 steps ahead of us, even when we came with the, water efficient toilets. That was 5 years ahead of us. And now you're starting to see more of those in the United States. So hopefully we can pick up the pace as well.
Now, one thing that's always on the front of businesses' minds is going to be cost. We've seen the price of solar come down significantly as the materials have become cheaper. What have we seen in terms of the pricing when it comes to wind?
Wind is going down as well. I think the more that you invest in it, the more that the prices are going to go down, because it's not going to be some sort of niche factor. It's something that is incorporated into every little piece of what we do.
And what about storing and harnessing some of this energy? What sort of developments have we seen in terms of batteries and the technology for storing this?
Well, you see some groups like Tesla that are developing in-home battery solutions that can help to store some of that energy, so that we're not building out huge substations like you might see with electrical grids. So I think if we continue developing in a way that looks at how we can create smaller ways of storing this technology, of storing the energy instead of using a lot of acreage to harness that, I think we're moving in the right direction.
And it's interesting, this idea of kind of trying to make it smaller, because, I mean, you see these things, they're these huge towering wind towers, and a lot of the coastlines where people live, where they would ideally like to put these, are in perhaps wealthier areas, and they may have enough clout to really stop some of these projects. What's being done to kind of really encourage people to take this on and not just see it as an eyesore in their backyard?
Well, in my personal opinion, as an environmental justice advocate, a wind farm is a lot less of an eyesore than a coal-fired power plant. It's a lot less of a health hazard than a coal-fired power plant. When you think about the children that have asthma, when you think about the communities that are dealing with respiratory issues, that you have cancer clusters because of the toxins that come off of coal-fired power plants. If you're going to talk about not in my backyard, I'd rather have a wind turbine in my backyard than a coal-fired power plant.
All right, well, thank you so much for your insights. Environmental justice advocate, Kari Fulton.